Today for Algebra, we're going over PO32, solving a proportion. Yesterday we talked about how to determine whether or not something's a proportion. Now we're solving a proportion. And notice that, what do these proportions have that the others on the last page didn't? Anything you see different about these? Yeah.
There's a letter for one of in place of one of the numbers.
Yes. Okay. There's a variable, right? We don't know all the information about these proportions because they contain a variable. Do we know they are proportional?
No. Yeah.
How?
Like you just simplify them.
But if we don't know what n is, how can we simplify 30 nths if we don't know what that number is?
Use cross products.
Okay. Cross products is the method that we're going to use to solve for the variable. But how do we know that these are why can we use cross products to solve for the variable? In order to do that, we have to know they're proportional. What in here tells us that 12 thirteenths and 30 nths is a proportion. There's something in there that tells you, so you don't have to check, it tells you that they are proportion. Again, what these have that CO31 didn't have. Let's take a look at the questions from CO31. Okay, there they are. Study. All right. It's like one of those spot the difference things, right? There we go. Go back down. Okay. Equal sign, right? Up here, I didn't tell you they were proportional because some of them weren't, right? You had to figure it out using decimal values, cross products, etc., etc. Here, if you're going to solve for a variable, you have to know they are proportional. And that's what the equal sign tells us here. Okay? So you are not determining whether or not they are proportional. You know they are because the equal sign. You're solving for that unknown value. Okay? And as I think it was Landon said, we're using cross products to do this. Okay? And if you remember from cross products yesterday, what that means is that since these are proportional, we know that 12 times n has to be equal to 13 times 30. Okay? Since they are proportional, cross products guarantees that those two things will be the same. Like you saw yesterday when you used cross products to determine whether or not they were proportional. Right? Those two products were the same thing. So we can write an equation here using cross products that will now allow us to solve for n. Okay? 12 times n, well, we don't know exactly what that is because we don't know what n is. So we're just going to leave it as 12n. But what is 13 times 30? 390. So cross products tells us that 12 times n has to be equal to 390. What's our one step to solve for n? Back to opposite operations here, right? PO18. Divide. Since we're multiplying 12 by n, to undo that, we're going to be dividing by 12. And what's 390 divided by 12? Gregory? 32.5. Okay? 32.5. How could you check to make sure you solve this correctly? Landon?
12 times 32.5.
You could confirm that 12 times 32.5 does equal 390. That's a way to do it. What else could you do? Check it. Yeah.
Cross products.
Okay. You could just again verify that it works. But how else could you check it? I'm trying to teach you how to cheat on your tests, but it's really not cheating, right? You're checking your answer. You're making sure that you're right, and I want you to do it. What? Okay. If n is 32.5, and I'm going to write it, I'll have to erase it so I can, I can put it here. If n is 32.5, then 12 over 13 will equal 30 over 32.5. How can we guarantee, how can we check that relationship is true? Yeah, we can compare the decimal values, right? 12 divided by 13 is probably nasty. Yeah, I'm going to round it. It's 0.92. 30 divided by 32.5, spoiler alert, is also the same nasty decimal 0.92. Okay? So you can check these answers when you're taking a test. Whenever you solve an equation, you can always check it. Okay? You should know exactly how many questions you get right on an equations test by checking. Okay? If you made a mistake, maybe you wrote 360 instead of 390. Maybe you wrote 930 instead of 390. Maybe you wrote 39, right? Mistakes happen. But if you check it, you're going to catch it. Okay? And by comparing decimal values, that's the way to check it. Let's look at the next one here. Our variable moved. It was starting in the bottom right, now it's in the top left. Does that change our process at all? No. We're still using cross products to solve it. We're still multiplying n by 21 and 8 by 15. Since they're proportional, and you know they are because I tell you that equal sign, you know cross products must be true. We don't know what n is, so we can't multiply n by 21. We can just write it in kind of a more friendly way, 21n. It means the exact same thing. And then 8 times 15 is 120. Our step that we did in the first one was to divide by 12. Same thing here. If you had n by itself, we're dividing by 21. And what's 120 divided by 21? This does not sound very promising.
5.7142.
5.714. We'll just round that to 5.71. Okay. I'm making these kind of nasty decimals here to discourage you from using scale factor because I want you to practice this cross products method. If you were given the opportunity to use scale factor, could you? Yes. But we've done that before, right? We've solved for a variable in a fraction using scale factor before. I want you to practice this cross products method here. And again, we want to test that. We take 5.71 over 15 equals 8 over 21. Compare those decimal values. What do you get? Probably 0.35, 36, 37. Wherever it is, it's the same. Okay. I'm going to get 0.38. 0.38. 5.71 divided by 15. 0.38. Gosh. When you're hot, you're hot. Okay? We know they're the same because the decimal values match. All right. The other two will be homework for you to do. So I want to go down to the word problems.
There's 3.
What do you mean 3?
The other two here up top in this current section, homework for tomorrow. But I do want to talk about the word problems also. Okay, so we're not going to do these two together. That's your homework. In addition to the word questions here that we're going to talk about now. Okay, your famous gravy recipe can feed 6 people. How many batches will you need to make in order to have enough for all 27 people coming to Thanksgiving? Okay, so we've talked before about how, especially with baking, you use proportions and rates and ratios a lot. Because sometimes you're making double the batch, triple the batch. In this case, whatever the scale factor is, I don't want to give it away. Okay, sometimes you're doing only half the recipe, a quarter of the recipe, right? So what proportion can we set up here? Okay, your gravy recipe can feed 6 people, right? So one batch, if we're just talking about the recipe by itself, that means one batch of it, one batch can feed 6 people. You want to know how many batches you will need to feed all 27 people coming to Thanksgiving. What proportion can we set up here? What rate can we set up here? So instead of setting up a proportion, you want to look for what kind of goes with, right? What goes together here? One batch can feed how many people? 6. one batch can feed 6 people. Okay? They're related. They're our rate.
Yeah, that's what
They're our ratio. One batch for 6 people. We want to know how many batches we will need to feed 27 people. Is that 27 going to be in the numerator or the denominator of my second fraction here? Denominator. Why? Because order matters. One batch for 6 people is equal to how many batches for 27 people? That's how you set up a proportion, right? What goes together? Batch to 6 people, batch to 27 people, okay? And using cross products to solve this, right? I'm going to simplify this a little bit so we don't have these words in here. But 1 is to 6 as n is to 27, right? That's essentially what our proportion says. One batch for 6 people. How many batches for 27 people? Using cross products, we've got 1 times 27 is equal to 6 times n, or 27 equals 6n. And what do we do to solve this? What's our one step? Gregory?
You divide 27 by 6.
Yep. Divide 27 by 6. And that ends up being 4.5. Okay? So you need 4.5 batches in order to feed all 27 people at your Thanksgiving Day dinner. The other two, you will need to set a proportion yourself. 8 grapefruits cost $6.32. How much will 13 grapefruits cost? What goes together, right? Set up that proportion. The last one, for every 30 minutes you swim, you burn 550 calories. How long will you have to swim to burn 875 calories? Again, what goes together? Set up that proportion, okay? So your homework for tomorrow is the rest of the page. We'll do the second page in class tomorrow. Make sure we're all kind of on the same page. All right, we all understand it well. Any questions on what you are to do for tomorrow? All right, folks, that is how you math.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you.